Brake violations are among the top 10 CSA issues, but to understand brake violations, you must understand the 20% rule. When applying the 20% rule, you take the total number of brakes. In the case of a standard 18-wheeler, that would be 10 brakes. If you have 2 or more full brakes in violation, you will be placed out of service under this rule. There are 5 pages in this out of service book with brake violations listed that are part of the 20% rule. 2 remaining pages cover those brake violations that are standalone out of service above and beyond the 20% rule. It should be noted for the 20% rule that brake adjustment is a key factor. There are 2 points to be made here. One is that any measurement that is 1/4 of an inch or more over the maximum allowed is considered a full brake in violation. A brake found to be 1/8 of an inch beyond the limit is considered a half a brake in violation. 2 half brakes together equal 1 full brake in violation. For example, a regular stroke clamp type 20 has a maximum pushrod travel of 1 3/4 of an inch. If the measurement were 2 inches, it would be considered a full brake violation. I will now have the driver place the transmission in neutral and release all the brakes. Then I'll advise the driver the use of hand and verbal signals as I complete the inspection. I now check the air and electrical lines between the tractor and the trailer. They should be free of any tangles or any crimps. I inspect line connections for proper seating. I also listen for audible air leaks. Lastly, I ensure hoses are not in contact with the deck. Next, I check for damaged brake hoses and tubing. I check for hoses for any damage extending through the outer ply into these air hose connections, back to the brake hoses leading to each of the brake chambers to ensure there's no violations. A standalone out-of-service example as it relates to brake hoses and tubing would include any damage extending through the outer reinforcement ply. I now check for mismatched air chamber sizes. I use this tool to ensure the air chambers are the same size. I also ensure the chambers are either long or regular stroke chambers. If mismatched, it would be an out-of-service condition. On a steer axle, it would be a standalone out-of-service, whereas on all other brakes, it would be part of the 20% out-of-service rule. A potential out-of-service example as part of the 20% rule would be improper linings for drum air brakes, such as lining with a thickness less than 1/4 inch or to the wear indicator if marked when measured at shoe center. I also check the brake drum for external cracks or if the crack opens upon brake application, which would be an out-of-service condition. In addition, I check the friction surface of the brake drum and lining. I ensure that the drum is not contaminated by oil, grease, or brake fluid, which is a full brake violation and part of the 20% rule. I also check for missing or broken mechanical components, including shoes, linings, pads, springs, anchor pins, spiders, cam rollers, push rods, and air chamber mounting bolts. I check for automatic slack adjusters on vehicles made after October 20th, 1994, looking for mismatched slack adjuster length or adjusters saturated with oil, grease, or brake fluid. You see, these are both automatic slack adjusters in good condition. On both sides, I check the trailer brakes. I listen for audible air leaks around brake components and lines. With the brakes released, I mark the brake chamber push rods on both sides at a point where the push rods exit the brake chambers or another reference point. In this case, I'm going to mark the push rods at the mounting bracket for the air brake chamber. I will now check push rod travel. I previously marked all 10 push rods and will have the driver apply 1 service brake application. I will measure all push rods and then have him release his brakes. Hit the brakes, driver! Release! This brake is within limits. Now we're in the cab to check the air brake system. For air brakes, I check for air leaks by releasing and applying the brakes. Driver, can you release the brakes, please?
Sure.
Can you make 1 brake application for me?
Okay.
Now listen for any air loss. I now make sure the ABS light is working by turning the key in the on position and ensure the ABS light cycles on and then turns off. Can you turn the key in the on position, please?
Okay.
Okay. You should always check to make sure the ABS light is working on the trailer as well. I also check for the low air indicator to see if it is missing, inoperative, or does not operate at 55 psi and below. Driver, can you turn the key in the on position?
Sure.
Okay, I'm going to have you hit the brakes release until I tell you to stop. The vehicle will be placed in violation if the visual low pressure warning device is inoperative. However, the out of service book does not place you out of service as long as there is still an audible warning present. I also have the driver run the engine at idle, then apply and hold the service brake. Driver, I need you to press the brake and hold it until I tell you to stop.
Sure.
Okay, that's good. I observe the air pressure gauge. Air pressure should be maintained or increased. A drop in pressure indicates a serious air leak in the brake system and the vehicle should be placed out of service, as outlined in the out of service criteria book under air loss rate.